So for this game, you're absolutely right. Where it gets confusing is we don't know if the F, G, H, and I, should we put them on the top and be pairing the interviewer to them, or
Yeah.
the interviewers and pair the witness to them? So I
Yeah.
agree with you. So we start with writing just F, G, H, and I. And then we have our witnesses, which are Q, R, and S. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to figure out, we have 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're not sure which order they go in and
Yeah.
and that's what can be confusing is sometimes we compare our investigator here to the witness, but we don't know where on the order they go, right?
Yeah.
So don't be afraid if you're not sure to go into the rules first and kind of just draw it all out. Don't have a specific diagram that you're trying to do and just let yourself be creative, because sometimes like even if you spend some extra time like pairing it and then you have to move it, say let's say like we pair it over here and then we have to move our pairs to our actual board,
Yeah.
that's okay if we're doing that fast, if it's not perfect, because at least we're thinking in the right direction. So is this kind of what yours looked like to start with?
Yeah. So at first, I think I wrote in the top. So at first, I think I wrote FJHI in the top, but then I realized that so I went to the first question and I realized that it was like a sequencing, and so the R was in the third place because I did the rules, and so I realized that the R was in the third.
Okay, so
So
let's start here. So rule 1, G and H must be interviewed by the same investigator. So how did you draw that, or how did you diagram that?
G and H like together,
But
and
do
then
they have to be together?
no, I mean,
So how I would draw this is I would just put like a square here so that I know they're the same thing.
yeah, I did G H, and then below them I did like I, and then a circle, like same.
Oh, same. Okay, okay, yep. And so if these two are are by the same person, what does this mean for the others?
That they're gonna be another person. So
Yes.
they're gonna
Yes,
be either
excellent.
US or
Which I would not draw this on my actual test, but we're like, okay, so that means that one is going to be F and then like a different letter is going to be for I.
Mhm.
Cool. Okay, so G and I cannot be interviewed on consecutive days. So how did you draw this one?
So I put G I and then cross like a
Yep.
slash,
So like this.
and then yes.
Awesome. How
So
you can write this real positively too is that there just has to be at least one. I'm gonna put a dash here between those two.
okay.
Like if some people like to see them like like the positive version, like what does this mean if they can't be next to him? Like what does that look like? So we could have G and then just one and then I, or we could have G and two and then I, with obviously them going back and forth. All right, so now we have Q must interview F. So on my diagram, I'm just gonna put that in right here. So Q must interview F. I'm literally just gonna draw this right here. So then Q's taken care of. So then we know that who must interview H and G? Who or who?
R or S.
Yeah, so if R interviews H, what do we know?
That either G interviews R or S,
Mm-hmm.
and then I interviews R or S.
Excellent. And then for our last rule, we just have R must conduct the third. So we're just going to put R here because that's third. Um, so who potentially can R interview?
H.
Yep, or
G
Mm-hmm.
and I.
Excellent. So at this point is where I would create my worlds. And I'm going to actually create it. I think we can create 3 worlds just based off of R. And so what I'm going to do is just draw 3 out. And I'm going to put R third in all of them. And so you already said this, but who are the 3 people that R can potentially interview?
GHI.
Yep, so I'm going to put G here. I'm going to put H here. And I'm going to put I here. So let's start with world number 3 for a second. What else, if I is interviewed by R, what else do we know?
F goes in Q.
Yep, F is interviewed by Q.
And then that G cannot be next to I.
Correct. Who do we know interviews G and H though?
R and S.
R and S?
No, like R or S.
But in world 3, we have R interviewing I. So whenever R interviews I, can R also interview G and H?
No.
No, why not?
Because G and I. Maybe?
Well, because we have 3 people that do interviews, right?
Yeah.
And they all have to interview at least one person, correct?
Yes.
So if we were to put, so we have R right here right now. I'm just gonna draw it up here for a second. We have R right here right now. We can't put R here because R would also have to go here, but then S isn't interviewing anybody, right?
Okay, I see it.
So just in this world though, so it's not in every world, just whenever I, R, or R interviews I, we know that S has to do these 2, correct?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, but then you said something else that was awesome. We know that G and I cannot be next to each other. So then where does G have to go in this world?
In the first place.
Yes, so we're going to put G and S here. And then that means that these 2 are just going back and forth. We don't know exactly where they are, but we know that these are the pairs and that they're either second or fourth. And that's really helpful, I think. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, so now let's go up to number 2. What else do we know about this one? Well, for all of them, we know that F and Q are together.
Okay, so I would say, like, the first thing I think looking at world 2 is that G has to go either in the first or fourth place, and I has to go either in the first or fourth place, or second and fourth.
Okay, let's start with something simpler. What if H is interviewing R? Who else must R interview?
I.
Do H and I get interviewed by the same person?
No.
No.
So I would say
Who gets interviewed by the same person?
G.
And H, right? So if H is interviewed by R, who else must R interview?
G.
G,
G.
excellent. So then do we know, after we figured that out, do we know who interviews I?
No. I mean Q or yes, S.
Excellent. So this is a huge, I think this also is really helpful. So you were really close on your inferences here. Instead of putting them in, like you said, like if G's in 1, I could be in 4. I would just say here that we know that the 4th one has to be G or I, correct?
Yeah.
The reason I would just limit it to that is because instead of like drawing it all out in all of them, I would just be like, all right, I know G or I is going 4th. because they can't be next to each other in 1 and 2, which I think is the inference you were making, correct?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. All right, now let's go up to, I wonder if let me get more things. Okay, world 1. What do we know about world 1? We obviously we know that F is getting interviewed by Q.
And that G and H is interviewed by the same person.
Yep, so who would interview H here?
R.
Excellent. And then what else do we know?
And so the one we have left is I and S.
Excellent. And then do we know anything else about this world?
So I would say that for this world, I has to be in the 3rd place.
Wait, we have G in
I
the,
mean, the 1st place.
first place. Yep, the first place. And then do we know anything else? I don't think we do, to be honest, but we just know that these are other going back and forth. And so this is how worlds work. So you can kind of see how they're kind of tricky to learn at the beginning, but can you kind of see how they, like, once you get good at them, they can be so helpful?
Yeah.
But they cause you to really think about like what possibly could happen. And so we're gonna go. So how I do games is I do my worlds, and I then actually do the tip, like the typical first question, which is like with like this one, like what could happen.
Mm-hmm.
I typically do this one, but I do it and I reread instead of using my worlds, I use it as an opportunity to reread my rules. So how I handle it is like I read like my first rule is like G and H must be interviewed by the same person. I then go through and I read all 5 answer choices and see if G and H are being interviewed by the same person.
Me too.
Awesome. And then I cross them off and then I like would move on. I do it this way because I like sometimes misread rules. And so I like double checking that I read it correctly. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And for me, it's like super easy too, like to do
I
Q.
agree. Okay, so now I need to go to select. Okay. All right. And then I then do the if questions next. So I would actually bounce around a little bit because I think it's fast. If questions are easier. So if like 15 were first, I would, or was like if 15 was actually before 14, I would actually skip 15 and go to 14 first. Because they're just they're easier and they help then. So these are called, I forget what they're called actually. Like scenario, they're not called like scenario questions, but if questions are like giving you an additional rule, and additional rules like help narrow things down, where which and what questions are like or like big picture or world questions where you have to think about things from a holistic standpoint. And I think it's easier to think about the bigger picture if you've already played with the rules more from the if questions, like this is what happens. And so for 14, if R interviews I, which of the following must be true? And so what world would we be looking at here?
The 3rd one.
Yeah. And so we're looking at the 3rd one because it's the only one where we have I interviewing R. And so then we get to just look at our answer choices. So F is interviewed first. Must that be true?
No.
No, because we have G there. All right. What about G is interviewed first?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we actually have that written in. But let's check the rest of them just for practice. So H is interviewed second.
No.
No, why does that must not be true? Why does that not have to be true?
Because it can be interviewed for it.
Right, and that's why D is wrong as well. And then I is interviewed fourth.
No.
Nope, we have I in third. So you can, once you like learn to do worlds, even if you spend like 4 minutes setting them up, you can fly through the questions.
That's awesome.
But it takes time to learn how to like it slows you down to get you faster, if that makes sense. All right, so go ahead and try 16 on your own and just walk me through what you're doing.
Okay. Okay, so I'll put S in fourth. Right, we're doing 16.
Yep, if S is in fourth, yep. And which worlds can S potentially be in fourth?
I want to say the second one.
Yep. And there's another one.
And the third one.
Excellent. So in the second one, if S is fourth, what else do we know then?
That J and I cannot be together.
Well, okay, so in the second world, if we put S fourth, do we know if this is G or I?
I.
Yeah, because G can't be with S. So we know that this is I then. So then we know that we don't know where, but we know that F and G are up here. All right, and then in our third world, what do we know if S is fourth?
So that I is R. The third one, G, S. And so the only one left is F and Q, and that would be in the second one. So H is an S.
Yeah, and do you see how we even had that here? Like we know that H has to be with S. All right, so go ahead and look through these answer choices and tell me, okay, and this is like could be true too.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so girl is interviewed in the first one, so I would hold on to that one.
All right.
The second one. Greer is interviewed in the third, so I would cross that out. Greer's interview in the fourth, and I will cross that out as well. Hong is interviewed in the second one, cross that out. And so Ichabod is interviewed in the first, and I will cross that out.
Excellent.
Fine.
I can only help you with the first request.
There went my Google.
On the website Forbes.com, they say.
Well, let's see what I did wrong. Okay, so I'm like.
Beyond the privacy
Hang on
bias,
one second.
hiring managers may remember the
Sorry, I don't know. My Google just went off. Okay.
You're good. So I'm saying that for that one, 16, I put I in the first one, so that's where I went crazy.
And you probably didn't do worlds, so you probably were just trying to figure it out, and you probably honestly just missed some of the rules of applying.
So I did I in first, and then FQ in the second one, and so like I stuck with those inferences, so that's why I messed up.
That's a really good like thing to like that to notice for yourself.
Yeah.
I honestly think you're going to be a worlds person.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I can get everything right if I do the worlds. I feel like I can go like through them super fast.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that you have to like be accurate at worlds, and you will make mistakes, but you'll learn how to overcome those for sure. Okay, so now go ahead and try number 15.
Okay, so okay. Which one of the following could be true? So Quinn conducts the first and second interview. So could be true. I would hold on that one, right?
Sorry, I was trying to
You're
refix
good.
your world
Thank
for
you.
you. Q could be the first. Q conducts the first and second interviews. Do we ever have Q interviewing? Hold on one second. Let me just draw this for you so I can. So we had this one. We put G, H. We put I here, and if I is here, that's how we knew G was first, and G would have to be with S. Okay. Do we ever have Q? Okay. This question is saying that Q interviews two people, right? Do we ever have Q interviewing two people?
No.
No, why not?
So I want to say because Q only interviews F.
Yeah, Q only interviews F. And like if it were to interview two, it wouldn't work because G and H have to be interviewed by the same
Okay.
person. So we know that one's wrong. That can't happen.
Okay. So Q conducts the first and fourth interview, so that's wrong as well.
We could never have Q going twice.
And so R conducts the second and fourth interview. It could be true.
Okay, so in what world could that happen? That R is in the second and fourth.
Okay. I want to say the first one.
So you think that we could put R here and we could put R here?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
R. Okay, no, because it's already in the third place.
Yeah, and we can't go 3 times.
Yeah, I see it.
Excellent. Sorry, I want to make you see it and not tell you.
Yeah. Okay, so Shaw conducts the first and second interview. Okay, so I'm looking at the third one. JAS SIRFQH. So yes.
Awesome. Why didn't it work in the first world?
The first and second interview, okay. Because of H and J.
Because of H and J?
I mean G and H, sorry.
G and H. Oh yeah, yes, excellent. They have to be interviewed by the same person. Fabulous. And then okay, and so then let's try out the E just to make sure.
Okay, so Shaw conducts the second and fourth interviews.
So right away, can you see what worlds potentially could work and potentially couldn't? Like without trying them out, you're like, okay, I know that these are the only ones I have to try.
Yeah. So the second one?
Yep, perfect. So we want to put S like right here and see like, okay, does this work?
And so obviously F and Q has to be in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would be J and I, but that couldn't work because of J and I.
Excellent. And just FYI, I think you're saying J instead of G, but I think that's probably just a Spanish thing.
Yeah.
Same. That's like when I say my letters and they're like, no, E instead of A.
Oh my goodness.
All right, so excellent. All right, so now let's do 17.
Let's do it. Okay. So Farrell must be interviewed fourth if which one of the following is true. So FQ and fourth.
And so where could we potentially have F in fourth?
So I want to say in the fourth one.
Okay, and anywhere else? So on must be true questions, it's really important that you look at all worlds it potentially could happen in. So obviously it can't happen in 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it could happen in 1 potentially.
Yeah.
So if F and Q go here, what do we know in world 1?
That's H.
And
R.
yep, and then in world 3 we know.
That's H as well. And that's R as well.
Wait, it's not R.
I mean S.
F. Yep, and you see how we already even have it figured out.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so now go ahead and try this question.
Okay. So G is interviewed in the first one, so could be true.
But
I would.
But what are we looking for? Could be true?
No, must be true.
Must be true. So must G be interviewed first?
No.
No, because here it could be interviewed third. So that can't be our answer.
Yeah. Hung is interviewed in the second one, so yes, must be true.
Yeah, and this is where that's where this is so helpful, where it's like, okay, in both of my worlds, that is exactly what's happening. So that's super nice. But okay, but go ahead and try the other 3 just for.
Hung is interviewed third. No. Then I is interviewed first. No. And then I is interviewed second. No.
Perfect. All right. Last question is, which of the following could be true except? What essentially are we looking for?
We are looking for 4 true, 1 false. Or it could be true.
Yeah, so 4 could happen, 1 could never happen, and that's the one we're looking for. So if it could happen, we're just going to cross it off. So go ahead and try this one on your own.
Okay.
On this question, don't be afraid to you don't feel like you have to try them all out right away. Ask yourself, like, could this potentially happen, and skip it. So for example, F is interviewed before G. Right away, I went to world 1 and I was like, ooh, I could put F in here and it probably could work. I don't know for certain, but I'm not going to waste time trying it. I'm just going to skip over it.
Okay.
I'm going to leave it open. Where like same for B, F is interviewed before H. Automatically, I'm like, ooh, I think that could happen in world 2. So I'm just going to skip it and move on.
Yeah. So for those 2, it could happen. Here's interview the day before. So C could happen too.
Yep, we could put it right here. And I'm like, okay, yeah, because we could go HRFQ, that works. That can't be our answer.
And then Hong is interviewed the day before. Okay, so D, I would hold on to.
Excellent. Because I'm like, all right, because if we put H and F can never be next to each other, because here we like obviously it can't be next to anybody. Like it has to be here. In this one, we know that it has to be G or I. And then in 3, we run into the same problem as 1 where there's no 2 spots next to each other. Awesome. All right. And then for
So Ikaba is interviewed the day before. Hong. So could be true as well.
yep, and we're looking for what can't happen. So that's why D's our answer.
Awesome.